Hello, everyone. As you're joining, we're going to take a couple of minutes to have others join as well. I see everyone is connecting, so we'll be starting shortly. Thank you. If you can confirm you're seeing my screen and listening to my voice properly, it would be great if you can let me know via chat here in Zoom. I'd appreciate it. Fantastic. Thanks, Katrina. Perfect. Yeah, you can do it through the Q&A as well. But perfect. We have audio and we have video as well. Are you able to see my screen there? I believe so, right? Excellent. Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Gabriel Zhang, product specialist here at Techdinamics, and today we're going to take about half an hour, 40 minutes to go on a webinar on streamlining your operations with Techdinamics products. We're going to see how these interact with each other. Most of you are most likely using at least one of these products. Maybe you have heard of the other ones, maybe not. So we'd like to have an overview of how all these can streamline your operations from end to end, from getting information from the vendor systems down to actually auditing the invoices that you get from the carriers after you have shipped, tracked, and delivered. So that's the idea of this webinar. We're going to have this Q&A section to at the end of the so just feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A section, and we'll be addressing those at the end of the presentation. We're going to be providing, most likely we're going to upload this webinar to our YouTube channel, and we'll have our team distribute it in due time. So just in case anyone from your organization has not been able to attend today. All right. Well, first of all, we'd like to thank you for your presence today. So let's get started. This is a program that we're going to share with you today, focusing first on achieving the perfect order. We have coined this concept of the perfect order, which means many things at the same time. On one end, the literal side of it, which is, well, trying to have the perfect order in terms of your order information and how it flows, and the perfect order when it comes to your processes, and how Techdinamics can help you achieve through the product lineup on well, to get to that perfect order. Okay. We're going to start with techOMS, then we're going to jump with techSHIP, then techTALK, and at the end, techAUDIT. Again, feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A section as we move forward in the presentation for anything you'd like to know, okay? But well, let's talk a little bit about this concept, what the perfect order is. Typically, if you have many systems integrated, or if you're integrated to many systems, you have many sources of information when you're trying to get information into the WMS. When you're trying to process the orders, you have information that you're sending to the carriers. If you're rate shopping, it's more complex, right? Typically, the natural status of things, maybe it's not the perfect disorder, but there's a little bit of disorder at these places, at these different points in the process. And we typically identify those as pain points, right? We're happy with this part of the process, but well, we have a pain point over here when we get an information from Shopify, for example, and pushing it to our WMS. or I don't know, when I'm missing fields that I need to pass from my WMS to techSHIP. So there are different ways to approach it, right? And the idea of the perfect order is to cover some key points to get there. First of all, the first key point is having consistent information across systems. Okay, those acquainted with integrations surely know what I'm talking about, and how complex it is sometimes when you, for example, when you're getting information from 5 different vendor sites or software in general, right? Maybe a shopping cart in a website, maybe I don't know, different products, a connection with WooCommerce, another with Walmart, another with Costco, another with Shopify, right? And everyone sends information in different ways, so you need to somehow come to, let's say, like a middle point across all these to have consistent information. And sometimes when you're getting that information from these systems, let's say that a carrier code is called differently in one system and than from the other, right? And then someone has to be there in the middle to translate that into something that everyone understands. So they turned FDEX and FDEG from 2 different systems into FedEx, for example, right? And that information is consistently passed from system to system until the end of the process. Okay, so that's one of the key points to have this perfect order: consistent information across systems. In this case, the idea is to have this consistent information across all the products: techOMS, techSHIP, techTRACK, and techAUDIT at the end, connected with whichever systems you're using in terms of vendor systems and WMSs as well. Then have streamlined processes. It's very hard when you have many systems working at the same time to have a streamlined process, because one system works one way, the other works the other. For this one you need A, for the other one you need B. So sometimes it's hard. It feels like you're juggling, and you need to learn how the system works and all that. So it is complex where you're trying to um, let's say merge all that logic into one process. That's something that we're also going to see how to solve with techOMS in this particular case, and techSHIP as well. Then the other point, key points to a perfect order is reduced to no touch points at all. Okay, the more touch points you have, the more prone to error you might be, and well, the more work you need to do, because a touch point is something you need to care and take care of, right? So the less touch points you have, the less work that you'll have, the less logic you'll have to take care of, and the less logic you need to take care of is, well, at the end, it ends up impacting in a whole set of elements that ends in efficiency as a result. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in some of the products as well. Then another key point to a perfect order is the require minimal action for maximum results. Those acquainted with the techSHIP desktop client, for example, know that when techSHIP is properly set up and the information is properly flowing from the WMS, the stuff the packing lines, the only thing they need to worry about is scan the barcode of the pick ticket, and that's it. They get the label out. They don't know all the magic that happens behind the scenes when it comes to rate shopping, advanced restrictions, OMR rules hitting the process, right? There's a lot of things that can be done, automated, and the preset that might end up with someone, the final user, right, or the end user, doing minimal effort and getting maximum results. In fact, I do remember some tickets that we got some time ago where the staff at the packing line thought that the printer was not working. and it was in fact that they were scanning the order and something was in the middle, but for them TechSHIP was the printer, right? So it's that trying to do trying to port your business logic into the product So no one needs to do the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting is done by Techdinamics products. Okay. And then the last key point that we consider for this is automated redundant or complex actions. It doesn't make sense to repeat the same complex process over and over and over and over again for similar or the same scenario that you might have. And this comes across every single scenario and product. If you have orders, for example, that if they are over in total value, they're over $1,500, you need to apply signature required and insurance, right? Why would you do it manually, right? Why would you have to take a look at the orders and see which one is and which one is not? While you could have a rule in whichever system that, depending on some certain conditions, is going to execute a whole set of actions, regardless of how complex these actions are. They could be super simple or super complex, but it's weight that you're taking off your back at the time of using the systems. Okay, so automated, redundant, or complex actions is part of these of this perfect order. Okay, well, this is what we're going to focus on when it comes to concepts throughout the products. Okay, so let's start with techOMS, which is going to be the first one in the line when you're getting information from different systems and providing. This is basically the map of the perfect order. Okay, so as you get information from different systems, we're going to have a deeper dive on this in a moment. You get information from different sources. Okay, could be software like vendor software like Shopify, WooCommerce, again, well, Costco, Walmart, even, well, manual orders could be an input over here. You could have shopping carts from a website, straight from the website, right? You could have all these hooked up to techOMS. techOMS allows you to automate all the input that you get from these sources and send all that information to the WMS in an orderly manner. Okay. Once this information is within the WMS, this information will be passed into techSHIP after it has been picked and packed, or while it's being picked and packed, so you can process the order. techSHIP is going to be in charge of reaching the carriers in whichever fashion you like, either arbitrarily, depending on what you have chosen or decided on in the WMS side, or rate shopping under stricter or looser conditions, depending on how you set it up, to try to get the best rate, to try to get the fastest service, to try to apply any rules that you might need to handle to properly and easily ship the orders. Okay. Once you have shipped, visibility is important, because typically you have customers calling you. Most likely, some of you will feel identified. Just following up on things that have not turned okay. Okay, we got this late package here. I got this customer complaining that they got this or that at this time, and it should have been that way. techTALK allows you to have transparent visibility and metrics of what you have shipped and what's the current status of those orders you have shipped. Okay, we're going to dive on techTALK as well. And even after you have finished, after you have delivered the orders, you're going to get your carrier invoices. Okay, and if there are any discrepancies between what you expect to be charged and what the carrier actually charged you, techAUDIT allows you to do it in an easy way. To grab the invoices that you got from the carrier, push them into the system, compare them with the information that was provided by the carrier when you were processing the orders through techSHIP, and have a matchup and say, well, okay, this tracking number, everything is fine. This one is fine. And the other one, no, we have a difference here. What was considered by the carrier at the time of invoicing me, and what was considered by the carrier at the time of rating that shipment? And you can easily spot where those differences are. So from end to end, from getting information from the vendor system, down to making sure that you got the proper charges from the carrier at the very end of the process. Techdinamics products can help you achieve this perfect order process. Okay. So let's start from left to right from the beginning there and go into techOMS. Okay. For those not acquainted with techOMS, it's an order management system that allows you to easily connect to your customers' channels in just minutes. I'm going to show you the product in a moment, but that's the whole idea of it. You can tie it up to many systems. At the same time, you can define rules depending on the case, on how you want to route these based on different elements and information that you might be getting from these systems, and automate flow from and to from these vendor systems and to your WMS connections as well. Okay, so for example, you could say, well, if an order is coming from Amazon and it's over this amount of money and is going, it's an international order, send it to this warehouse connection and not to this other one where we handle something else. Okay, we're going to see that in a moment, but that's the whole idea of techOMS as a product. It's a bridge between your vendor systems and your fulfillment channels, providing this easy integration and rules that you can design without programming in a pretty simple and transparent way. Okay. After techOMS, once the information has been provided by the vendor channels or the sales channels and sent to the fulfillment channels, your WMS systems, then that information will be in the WMS systems, and at some point these are going to be sent to TechSHIP. Okay, TechSHIP will be the one in charge of getting that order information from your WMS systems or in-house systems, and process the orders. Okay, processing the order, picking and packing, and finally shipping these orders. TechShip is most likely what you are more acquainted with at this time. Well, what TechShip does in general terms is simplify fulfillment and shipping by allowing you to create client profiles. Under those client profiles, which billing accounts or carriers you're going to ship through, and define specific rules for that client. So you could use, for example, one FedEx account and one UPS account throughout your whole warehouse setup, but you can have different behaviors depending on the client. If you have client A shipping dangerous goods because they're shipping toys with batteries, right? You might need that UPS and that FedEx account for that client to have dangerous goods set up, right? Maybe for another client which is shipping food, you might need advanced restrictions specifically tailored for shipping time. Okay, or the delivery time, because if you're shipping, let's say, chocolate, it might go bad if it's too long within the chain, and you could define rules that are absolutely different from the company shipping toys with batteries and specifically designed for that. I need to rate shop services and carriers that deliver orders in less than 2 days or 2 day stops, right? And maybe for client C, which is shipping, let's say, houseware, in that case, well, there are no conditions, no special conditions whatsoever, and you'll use the accounts without any additional setup. So you could have the same base accounts and have different behaviors at the time of shipping, and your crew at the packing lines won't have to worry about all this, because when you're scanning an order that has dangerous goods on it, TechShip will take care of printing every single document that's required for that. And when you're trying to ship an order with chocolate for that other client, the staff at the packing line won't have to worry about if that order makes it in less than 2 days or over 2 days. They don't know about that requirement. They're just going to get the label. TechShip's going to do the heavy thinking. Okay. After the order has been shipped and TechShip has taken care of that, that order will be on the street. And an important part of the process is tracking that package. Okay. This information might be valuable not only to your client, but to yourself, because obviously your client will be anxious to know what's going on with a shipment A, B, or C, tracking number A, B, or C, right? But you could also learn from the performance for each client and for each carrier where the pain points are in this sense, and design a strategy depending on the time of the year, the carriers that you use, and what and for which carriers you're for which clients you're fulfilling, or which carrier to use or not to use, depending on the time of year, depending on what you're shipping, depending on how you're handling it. You can design a strategy based on that rather than on a hunch. I typically think when it comes to TechTrack about the peak season, right? November, December, October, where we have all these special sales days, sorry. And well, sometimes we're just acting on a hunch. Well, remember last year, this carrier, well, it was quite chaotic. They deliver a whole bunch of orders late. We weren't quite sure if to switch to another one or to discontinue that one for a couple of months on the peak season. Well, over here, you'll have through TechTrack transparent information. Okay, carrier A delivered late 30% of the orders, 32.1% of the orders, and then the other ones were delivered in time. And so this other percentage failed to deliver, right? Or they induct late. They pick things up late because they're overloaded in the peak season. So TechTrack by itself is not just for tracking where the package is, following from point A to point B in the map, but actually getting valuable information and you being able to get ahead of issues that that you might need to deal with. TechTrack also allows you to have your customers access information, so you stop being the middleman at the time of accessing information. You can provide them access so they can follow up on their shipments and on their metrics as well. Okay. And then we have techAUDIT. techAUDIT as a module within the TechTrack product, which allows you to detect these discrepancies when it comes to invoicing, making sure that you're not overpaying these shipping invoices. Okay. Of course, you can save time at the time of doing all this. You don't have to print a whole bunch of papers and compare one to another. techAUDIT has easy filters to use, so you can say, well, out of this invoice that has 500 tracking numbers on it, 500 orders, just bring me everything that has a discrepancy between what was actually rated and what was actually invoiced. And it's integrated with techSHIP. So anything you do in techSHIP is going to be the base for you when you use techAUDIT. There's no additional steps on that. We use the same information that you already processed for you to compare to the information that the carriers provided at the time of invoicing. Okay. So, well, let's do it. Let's jump into the products and take a look at these elements. Okay. Just a second. Let's go here. Let's start with techOMS. For those that haven't seen techOMS yet, techOMS has different sections in this navigation bar, which target different groups of data: sales on one end, then purchases, inventory, and then fulfillment channels and sales channels connections. The idea of techOMS, again, is to be a bridge between your vendor channels or your sales channels and your fulfillment channels. The way to configure these connections is really straightforward. If I would be connected, for example, to, let's say, a Shopify connection, what I would do over here is just create a sales channel connection, Shopify. I'm just going to name it Shopify new. I'm going to save this. Okay. And I'm going to add it over here. I'm just going to open one of the ones that I have created. Okay. Within these sections, you can check the main settings. In this section, you can define keys. You can define behavior, what kind of information you want to include or not include. For example, fraud risks. When it comes to Shopify, you can say, well, bring this information in, which is not brought by default. I want to see what synchronization actions have been taken over this channel. You can have them here. You can target different warehouses depending on the case. If you have sales channel A connected to more than one warehouse mapping, you can also do that. And then you can also map your SKUs, map carriers, and in some cases also use webhooks for different things. For example, to create orders, there are many ways to approach this setup. Everything you set up as input from sales channels or as output to fulfillment channels is done in a really streamlined manner. The difference between one connection and the other is really slight. So the learning curve at the time of setting these up is minimal. You learn how to set up one, you learn how to set up 99% of the others, okay? Once these connections are created, let's say this one, 3PL Central, okay? Then I have a sales channel for Shopify and then an output for 3PL Central. And over here, again, I can set up my credentials, mappings, and so on and so forth, okay? Once I have my channels connected, I can follow the activity of these channels and connections through logs. So if everything goes fine or if anything goes wrong, it's really easy to review what's going on here, okay? For example, I have a process over here, receiving sales orders from shop to techOMS complete. And this is going to tell me how many orders were handled, how many were successful, how many warnings I got, how many errors, and how many were ignored, okay? So you have control and visibility on your connections. And again, you can do it in just a few minutes. And when it comes to synchronization between these channels, you can do it manually if you want to, but the idea is to automate as much as possible. So you don't have to worry about coming here every now and then to push things manually or to pull information manually, right? Even though I could say, well, I have this Shopify connection. I want to synchronize. I want to receive everything from this Shopify connection into techOMS. Or I want to send inventory levels to this Shopify connection. After I fulfilled, WMS handled information, TechSHIP processed the order, so on and so forth. That information comes back and, well, we're going to push the inventory back. So Shopify knows, okay, now you have 15 less of this SKU, 25 less of that other SKU, so on and so forth. You can import the products from the channel in just one click or export the products to the channel as well. So you don't even have to worry about grabbing files and uploading. No, we have a direct connection with the system and we can pull and push information as required. This can be done again manually, or you could just say, well, I already set up everything. I have all my systems connected when it comes to sales channels on one end. I have the other ones connected in the WMS side. So I just want to automate everything. When you are setting up the vendor connections over here, I could say, well, I want to send inventory to shops, right? Or receive shipments from warehouses or receiving sales orders from the shops every, let's say, 1 hour, right? So I set up this one. So every 1 hour, I get all the sales that were obtained via Amazon or Shopify through this channel, okay? And then I'm going to enable this one for automation. And I also want to receive these every 1 hour, and I want to receive whatever was handled in the WMS every 2 hours, right? So receiving shipments from warehouses every 2 hours, okay? I also want to receive the inventory at the same time. So as you can see, you can automate all this based on the vendor, right? For one of your clients, you want to do it this way. For another of your clients, you want to do it that other way. You have absolute freedom to do so, okay? You can also have inventory real-time updates if you want the inventory to actually update as orders are being processed and handled. Automatic PO workflows as well. You can allow partial fulfillment if you have orders that you don't have the full stock to ship. You can fulfill them partially. So same for receiving, right? So you can automate all this. You can sit down, design your strategy, and just have it flow after that, because that's the main word over here. It's the flow of information in an automated manner. You worry once and you stop worrying afterwards. Of course, that if at any point you like to intervene within your automations, you can perfectly do so. I can come to sales orders, for example, and check if everything is fine or not. Or if I need to create a manual sales order, I can perfectly do it from here instead of getting that from a connection, from a sales channel. I can create it. I can basically assign everything that I would get from there: order number, the date, well, what carrier. I'm going to use a FedEx Ground, for example. This is going to go to warehouse 2, or it's related to warehouse 2. You can choose your customer from here. Okay. And then you can define the SKU lines. You can add, well, this one has a Bluetooth speaker, so I'm going to add it to it. This is 3 of these speakers, right? We're going to save this, and you can manually define the order if you wanted to. So you can, when it comes to techOMS, you can have like full manual processing, semi-automatic processing, having part of it automated. For example, pull all the information from the vendor channels and manually pushing those to your WMS, to your fulfillment channels. Or you can have it almost fully automated without any intervention. You can just define your rules in the beginning and just let it flow. You can do any kind of controls over here as well. There are many filters. For example, bring me every order that has been shipped so far. Okay, so you have them here. You can click on them, get all the details for that. When it comes to pipeline, you can manually draft the orders, approve them, allocate them, fulfill. You can cancel. You can fully cancel the orders rather than just a tentative cancel. When it comes to shipments, you can control from here as well what happened to them, if they were sent to the warehouse, if they were actually shipped, or if they were canceled. There are many statuses over here, short shipped, for example. And you can also filter by a status and a time frame or time slice. Bring me everything that was updated in the last 7 days, or bring me everything that I shipped in the last month, right? And not only for sales, but also for purchases, you can design what we call routes. Routes are basically information flows or conditions that you can create. So you can, for example, say, well, if this and that condition meet, then do this with this kind of order. And if not, do this other thing. For example, here I have orders over $1,000. Okay. In this case, let me try to check a complex one. I think that, let me see. Yeah. There we go. Let's start with this one. So let's say that, for example, we want to, for every sales order that is over $1,000, let's start fresh with one. We're going to route that through everything that's less than $1,000 will be automatically routed to one of the warehouse instances. And those that are over $1,000, we want someone to manually review them, okay? And we want to send an email to the person in charge, or the people in charge, if there's more than one, to know that there are orders that are over $1,000 in value and they need their review. Okay, so what you do over here is add conditions. You can define statuses and define different actions. For example, send notifications, send to a warehouse, etc. The way you define these is just graphic interface. In this case, I'm just going to add a condition here, which is let's review. This is check if order is over $1,000. Okay. I'm going to go with total over or greater than or equal to 1,000. Okay. So over there, I have my condition. If it's over $1,000, I want to send a notification. Okay, so the action, if true, here will be send notification to supervisors. Over here, let's say that is going to be to or none. And then you can send a notification to another group of emails as copy. Okay, you can add over here. This is going to be the subject. Okay, let's say order number, and we're going to add the order number to it, so Hernan can know that that's the order number in question. He can find it easily. And then we're going to say requires your review over $1,000. Okay, and then in the body we're going to say hello, we have detected order number. Let's add over here the order number, which has an order, a total value of $sign total associated with purchase, with PO number and the PO. Okay, so we can do the follow-up on every system, and requires your attention. Please verify and confirm the draft. Thank you, techOMS. And we'll save it. Okay, so if it is true that the order is $1,000 or over, we're going to be sending emails to, in this case, to Hernan. Okay, and we're going to set the order as draft as well. Okay, so set as draft for review, and it's going to be draft. Now, for orders under $1,000, what I'm going to do is automatically approve them. Okay, so I'm going to change the status action here, and then go to drag it. Okay, I'm going to drag it here. So now this becomes false. I have a tree for I have a branch on the tree for true, and now I have a branch on the tree for false. Orders under $1,000 pre-approve. Pre-approve automatically, says status approved, and we're going to be sending this to a specific warehouse instance. Okay, I'm going to drag this over here, tie it up to here, and send to warehouse connection 1, demo 1, and that's where it's going. And I don't need to worry about anything else. This rule, if it's in effect and if it's active, is going to grab each order coming into the sales channel and run this flow every single time. And you can make this as complex as you want, and you can change the flow as complex, and you can change the flow as flexible as you want. Because if tomorrow we change the action and we say, well, you know, we want to send we don't want to send a notification anymore, you can just remove it, or maybe you can set it as a draft before you send a notification. That's fine. We can just do it over here. I'm going to move this down here, and you just switch these from one side of the tree to the other within the branch. You have absolute freedom on how to define these. Well, priority, let's say it's priority 1, and that's it. Okay, so you can define as many rules and flows as you require to automate all these actions. You can follow the actions over here as well when it comes to logs, to know if a rule was applied or not, how it was applied, in case there are any discrepancies or any doubts on any of the processes. You can do the exact same thing with purchase orders. You can define routes, you can push them and approve as well, automatically or manually or automatically as well. And when it comes to inventory over here, you can check your products, the product variants, and review inventory levels. Adjust them from here or get them from the vendor or the sales channels, okay? Depending on what you do. So techOMS, in general terms, and to jump into TechShip now, allows you to do this. Receive information from your sales channels, which you easily connect to, define all the rules and workflow that you need to automate in the middle, and automate information flow to your fulfillment channels. TechOMS will also be listening to the fulfillment channels as they get information, as the orders are processed there. It's going to be checking on the statuses, so it knows, oh, okay, every this amount of time, as we saw before, I'm going to ask information from there. I want to receive all the shipments from the warehouse every 2 hours or every day at the end of the day, right? And you handle it that way. You don't need to worry about it. You just come over here for review for anything you might need, but you basically forget about it once you have it as automated as possible. Now, once the information has flowed to the WMS, that information will be used for you to pick and pack the orders. And at the time of shipping, you will be using TechShip, okay? Within TechShip, and let me switch to my other portal. There we go. Within TechShip, you go into import orders. The way you push orders into TechShip is really straightforward. In this case, I'm going to rate shop a batch of 7 orders. I'm going to fast import these. So I'm pulling batch 14192, which is the reference number that I'm using for it. Information has been pulled from the WMS right now. And the only thing I need to do over here is process and print. Or if I would be using the desktop client, scan the pick order number, and that's it. TechShip has 2 applications to process orders. One of these applications is the web client, as you can see. In this case, the batch has 7 orders, but it could have 700 orders if you wanted to, right? And process all those orders in one shot if these are batched within your WMS. But TechShip has the capability to handle batches as well as one-by-one processing. In this case, for the web portal, which is what you're seeing right now, it doesn't have connection to devices, okay? It doesn't connect to a scale, to a dimensioner, to a scanner, right? You already have these orders batched in the WMS, and you pass the information over here. As you can see, we rate shopped this batch. Some orders went out FedEx ground, others Canada Post expedited parcel, others UPS second day air. Over here, we can take a look at the labels. You can see the rates. Let's take a look at the rates for this one, for example. See? For this particular case, two different FedEx accounts I had rate shopped against a UPS account. We have the transit time over here. And as you can see, the one that got the best rate was this one, $107. Okay, and these are all test accounts. So the values might be a little bit higher than normal accounts. Okay. But as you can see, just in a few seconds, I processed these 7 orders, some of these with more than 1 carton. As you can see, this one had 4 cartons. And you can have TechShip do the heavy lifting of choosing this or that carrier, this or that service. In this case, based on what's the cheapest option. As you can see here, you have the transit time. And maybe for this client, 5 days is too much. So I could go into this client profile and this billing account profile and say, hey, bring me services when you rate shop that deliver in 3 days or less. And by doing that, I can have TechShip automatically discard Canada Post expedited parcel and UPS standard unless they actually deliver in 3 to 2 days time based on the origin and destination. I could also remove FedEx ground from the equation through any of these 2 accounts. See, but that's the thing. I don't need to do any heavy thinking over here. I just come in, press process and print. TechShip does the heavy lifting, all the heavy thinking. I get my labels, I stick them to the boxes and in the cartons, and I'm out. When it comes to the desktop client, this application is the one that's typically used at the packing lines to process orders one by one. And in a similar fashion, the only thing that you basically need to do is to scan a number, a pick order number. And if you have your scanner to press enter as well, you don't even have to press process and print here. The scanner will do it for you. And in this case, you just scan the order. TechShip is going to pull the information from the WMS, push it to the carrier, get you the label or labels if they apply to the case, more than one, and that's it. As you can see over here, you get general information, order number. In this case, I'm printing digital labels. But you got order information, you get the ship to data, you have accessorials if you require those. Any custom references that might be passed can be visible. You have the cartons over here with the tracking numbers, weight, length, height, dimensions. Everything is there. If you need to integrate with scales, you can do it. If you need to integrate with dimensioners, if the dimensions you have in the WMS are dummy dimensions or just generic data, you can get specific dimensions using different devices. Okay, so TechSHIP Desktop Client and TechSHIP web portal allow you to handle batches and individual orders in just a few seconds. The only thing I would need to do here to follow is just that. Just scan the next one, scan the next one, scan the next one, and go. And in a matter of a few seconds, get exactly what I need, regardless of how complex that shipment is from a logistics standpoint. When it comes to setting up the clients, over here, let's go to one of these clients options. You can set up as many carrier accounts as you need under these clients. Over here, I'm going to go to Gold Enterprise. Okay, I can choose cartonization. For example, in this case, how I want to cartonize and how I want to pack my orders, how many accounts I want to use or not, and how these are going to be defined. For example, in this case, if I use FedEx, I can choose what references I want to print in the labels, if I'm going to be printing package slips or not, how many package slips I need to print, maybe a default one, maybe I have a custom package slip. I can print both at the same time through different printers. If I'm going to be marking up the shipments going through these accounts, if I need accessorials, signature required, dimensions required, print a commercial invoice for international shipments, address validation. For example, here, address validation. When it comes to international shipments, duties, customs, dangerous goods, you can set everything up over here because you know the game beforehand. Before you ship, you know what you need to do. And it's translating all your idea down to here to the controls, check some boxes, choose options from the drop downs, and you get it running. When it comes to rate shopping, for example, you could say, I want to rate shop everything that FedEx offers through this account. Maybe not. Maybe it's like, no, we don't want to rate shop ground because we're shipping food, for example, right? Might go bad in summer, might take too long to ship. Fantastic. You can build an exclusion list of services. I don't want ground and I don't want home delivery. Rate shop everything, but always exclude these codes from here. Exclude selected codes and build your list over here. Or you can do the other way around. You can say, I want to include or cherry pick the services I want, and I want to ignore everything else. So in this case, just bring me ground, home delivery, and today. I'm not interested into shipping overnight or express saver or anything else. And if it has to be more complex, for example, I want ground, but as long as it takes 2 days or less or 3 days or less, you can perfectly do so through the advanced mode. Over here, I can define my rate shopping rules by saying, hey, I want ground, but I don't want ground always. I want ground as long as, let's say, the SKU description, one of the SKUs says chocolate in the description, okay? And ground makes it in 2 days or 3 days, let's say, or less, okay? So estimated delivery days, less or equal than 3. So by doing this, I'm saying rate shop ground, FedEx ground, as long as I'm shipping chocolate in this, and as long as it takes 3 days or less. And maybe for the rest of the SKUs, you rate shop everything, right? But for chocolate, if the SKU description says chocolate, we want to go this way. No one has to do the heavy thinking. The system does it for you once you have defined it, okay? And well, we also have OMR for that. We could also say in a similar fashion to what I showed in techOMS, you could perfectly say over here, hey, for shipments over a total value of $1,000, okay? When I import the order, okay? If the shipment is over $1,000 in total value, apply signature required, okay? And also apply insurance. Insurance flag, true. And I want you to automatically, okay, Let's say, okay, let's keep it at that. Okay, and maybe let's add instructions of handle with care. We're going to push this value into instructions field for the carrier whenever this happens. Okay, so by doing this, TechSHIP will automatically look at every order that's coming through from the WMS. And if it matches this condition, it would apply all these actions automatically. Define it once, forget about it. You can also export these rules to apply them for other clients. And you can also define these rules at a global level in your TechSHIP portal, so you can choose, okay, client A, B, X, Y, and R need this rule. And it's going to apply to them automatically. I don't need to go in and define this for every single one of them. I do it globally, and I tie these to my client. Once you have processed the order through TechSHIP and you manifest, you confirm the orders to the carrier, then this information will move to TechTrack. Okay. Within TechTrack, you have the first thing you meet when you go into dashboard is this graphic panel. This panel shows you what you're seeing right now is overall information from my demo portal until now, okay, over this year. You can see the volume distribution across the world. In this case, darker means higher volume. So out of these almost 2.5 million orders, most of them are going to the US. The other, most of the amount is going to Canada. And then we might have some international shipments, which are not enough to darken different areas of the map. You also have stats on-time delivery, on-time induction, late delivery. These are all percentages, okay? And late induction and failed delivery as well. You have a breakup by client, so you can see for which client you're shipping most of the volume, okay? And through which carriers you have shipped this, okay? And in this case, 19 carriers. If I hover over here, this is going to tell me, oh, okay, I shipped 500,000 via UPS, almost 500,000 via FedEx as well. Most of it is USPS, okay? But you can see, and you can click over here and get the specific details for each carrier, okay? As well as the shipping trend over here. As you can see over here, you have the amount of orders. In green, you have the on-time delivery orders. You have the late deliveries on yellow, and then the failed deliveries in red. In this case, it's barely perceptible. But if you wanted, this is across all clients and across all carriers. If I wanted to see how USPS is standing on this average of 84.8%, I can click over here and see how USPS performed compared to other carriers or compared to the average. Let's give it a while to load and reset all these elements. When you choose clients, carriers, and everything from here, you will also update the shipping trend. So as you can see over here, USPS in this case compared to the other carriers is way above the average with on-time deliveries, right? It's inducting on time much better than the carriers in average as well. And if you wanted to see these orders, what this, for example, 4.4 late delivery represents, you can click over here, and this is going to take you to another panel, which is the performance dashboard, to see which orders are part of that 4.4%. In this case, late delivery and failed delivery would be red flags, right? Something wrong happened at the end. But maybe late inductions would be yellow flags, and something to keep an eye on to make sure that you follow up on the carriers, that you make sure you know that something might happen. In this case, maybe the carrier steps on the gas and delivers on time. That happens a lot. And in fact, as you can see over here, 16.4% and 4.4% means that the remaining 12% was late inducted, but was delivered on time, right? But you're not acting on a hunch. You know what's going on. You have a transparent view of what has happened. And you can also see over here how many orders and what's the trend for that carrier throughout that year, when you ship more or less through that carrier at that point in the year, okay? Okay, now about the performance dashboard. When you click over here, for example, late delivery, I'll be brought to here. In this case, I can filter by different ways as well, by warehouse, by client, by carrier, by year, by month. Okay, bring me everything from last month. Last month was a mess. I want to see what happened, right? And you can break it up in days. Bring me everything from the last 14 days that was late delivered, for example. So you can apply the filters here in a really simple manner and just target those conflicted areas of performance so you can see how you can improve them. techTALK allows you to handle that information that way. Just a moment. Let me refresh over here because I brought a whole bunch of information. Let's go late delivery from the last 14 days. Okay, there we go. If I wanted to see any of these, I can just click over here. Some of these are even en route. I can click over here. Oh, sorry. There we go. Let's go late delivery in the last 5 days. Some are new, some are en route, some might have been delivered. If you click on the tracking numbers over here, you'll be getting to where this is actually at. In this case, pickup. This is all test information. But for example, this one has been returned to sender. We have the tracking number here. We have the ship from, the ship to, the carrier, the amount of pieces, the weight, the tracking master tracking number, right? And you have the timeline from the beginning here, time and date, and what happened and where. Okay, Erlanger KY 41018 zip code, and over here the shipping label was created. This was basically shipped and processed and shipped, because at 4:29 p.m. this was the label was generated, and less than half an hour later this was accepted at a USPS origin facility, and then started moving forward to Cincinnati, Ohio. Then it went to Dallas, Texas. It arrived at Mesquite, Texas, and well, it got to Garland, and it was out on delivery. Okay, so out on delivery, expect delivery by 9 p.m. And what happened? Well, no such number. The address was wrong. It would have been great, for example, in this case, to have run a good address validation to prevent this kind of issue. So from this information, from all this transparency, you can get to know what is the more efficient way to set up your environments to handle these shipments and to prevent all the headaches ahead of time. techTALK, in summary, allows you to have this visibility, graphic visibility when it comes to volume and performance, percentage visibility, and specific visibility on the orders that are conflictive at the time of handling, processing, and following up, and also the details from end to end of what happened to that specific order, the timeline of events. And to wrap up, we have techAUDIT. techAUDIT is a module within techTALK, and allows you to compare what has been processed in techSHIP and what was handled by the carrier at the end, at the time of invoicing. Over here, you're going to import your carrier invoices. Depending on the carrier, you'll have different formats. Could be TXT, could be CSV, could be an Excel file, but you can just push them over here and say, well, I'm going to upload, let's say, a FedEx or a UPS invoice. You have guides on how to target that, and then you select the file and you import. Once you push it in, you might realize, for example, in this case, let's focus on this particular row. As you can see, we know that this is the invoice number. We know that this invoice has been processed over here. Once you import, you process it, so you can compare it to the information that techSHIP has. And then it has the established charge was 7110, and then the actual charge was 7307. Where do these 190 something dollars come from? What's the problem with that, right? So what I can do is click over here to jump into that invoice and the details of it. Let's see. Let's give it a moment to load. And within all the invoice lines, I can say, well, bring me everything that has a difference on it. Okay, because I'm going to have, in this case, for example, this line is perfectly fine. Estimated charge 2268, 2268, false. Now, what happens if this invoice has 500 records? I'm not going to go one by one to see which ones are false and which ones are not. It's a waste of time. but I can just have tell techAUDIT, hey, bring me everything that has a difference, so I can cherry pick those and work on those specifically. In this case, out of this whole invoice, only 2 tracking numbers had discrepancies. And if you want to know what these discrepancies are, you can click here in details and see what was originally estimated and established, and what was actually used as information by the carrier. In this case, as you can see, the weight is the conflict. 3 pounds was originally rated, and the carrier accounted by 4. And then the billable weight was 5 pounds, right? So this is where the discrepancy is. In the charge description over here is going to tell you what charges were included here: ground residential, residential surcharge, fuel surcharge, shipping charge correction ground, etc., etc. You can download the established data as a CSV, and you can download the actual data so you can compare it. In this case, I can click over here. This is going to download a CSV. TXT, sorry. Okay, let's download it. Let's grab it from here. I'm going to show it to you. Let's beautify this a little bit. All right. So this is the exact information that was handled by the carrier. Okay, it's super long in this case, but over here we have an MRI of what happened with this order. You can check the estimated raw data and the actual data. In this case, if we click in details, we'll see what happened. Similar case. This is the weight that was used when rating, and this is the weight that was used, the actual rate and the billable weight. So this is how, from end to end, from the vendor system down to making sure you got the right charge at the end of the line. TechSHIP products, Techdinamic products can help you handle all this. techOMS for vendor and fulfillment channel bridging, WMS to carrier bridge with techSHIP, and after that, techTRACK to follow up and design your strategies based on transparent information, and techAUDIT to make sure you don't lose a single cent at the time of getting charged by the carrier. So thank you for attending. I don't know if any of you has any questions. Feel free to drop them in the Q&A. We're already almost in time. Okay, we got one question here, which is, since techAUDIT is a module in techTRACK, does that mean you have to subscribe to techTRACK in order to access techAUDIT, or can you subscribe to techAUDIT only? That's a really good question. And it wouldn't be a question for me since I'm product specialist, but I'm not a sales specialist here. But it would be great if you can reach the sales team or your project manager if you have an ongoing project, and ask them if you can access techAUDIT without accessing techTRACK. Okay. Any other questions you might have? Feel free to drop them there at the Q&A. We'll just take 2 minutes to take questions, and if we don't have any, we'll wrap up the session. Give you a few seconds to type if you have any more. All right. Well, again, thank you for your time. I hope you have enjoyed this webinar. Feel free to reach your sales representatives and PMs if you have any questions, doubts on how to implement or how to expand your operations with any of these products together with the current ones you have. And I hope you can make the best out of our products, and that you get to have the perfect order process on your end. Okay. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And well, I'll meet you, I guess, in the next webinar we'll have. Bye-bye.